as I started spending time with my friends and they'd tell stories about their family, and a couple of them had less than favorable things to say about their grandparents, and I had nothing to add to that with Granddot because, I mean, how are you supposed to add to that when you have a grandmother that goes to Lady Gaga and offers, I remember one time for high school, there's a Danish exchange program, and one of the big things about Denmark is a lot of the students go, and because of the drinking age, they tend to drink more than they should. And she offered one time for me to see what my limit was beforehand. And so she's just different than any other I've ever met. Even in her last year, she was more active than most of the people that I know now. And I think one of the reasons I got this tattoo was that way I could remind myself that I need to be that active and do that much stuff. So I always have that as a constant reminder. So, to Granddot.
With that picture with the bottle, I want to just qualify that she was a lady. She did not have a ladies' lunch. She was a lady.
You didn't drink out of the bottle.
She was a lady.
Or talk out into the second floor window of her house.
Well, going with that story, we were in France. Will did a study abroad, the eldest cousin, and he told Granddot that I'm not going to be home for Christmas because I'm going to be in France for a year. And she proceeded to say, well, we'll just come to you. Okay, all of us. So I believe it was my sophomore year of high school. We all went to France for 2 weeks. 1 week in the south of France and 1 week in Paris. And when we were in the south of France, family tradition when we get together is bourbon slush. So when I smell bourbon, I think Christmas now. And so we were kind of like, bourbon slush, but we're in France. Ooh. So we hunted up and down and all these little shops, and they only sell bread, and they only sell meat, and they only sell cheese, and we're hunting for a liquor store. And we're going and going and going, and finally we go to one of the mega market stores, and I remember looking, and we're all looking through the whiskey, and we're like, this isn't gonna work, it's not bourbon. And finally we find that bourbon, and we made her take the picture because it was, I can't even remember what the name was, but it was
Bad.
It was bad. But I believe we drank it all. But the point was it was bad bourbon, and that was just, like Max said, you can't tell a bad story. People started going off, well, my grandmother said this, and we're just kind of like, well, mine made me drink bourbon. So, Granddot.
Don't hurt each other.
I need to go before. I said I wasn't going to do this, but because I'll start talking and can't stop. Sort of like my mother is Dot. When they used to get together, they talked a lot. So my first memory of Dot was from church. She wasn't churched then, because she had young children. I can always remember everybody sits in the same place at church every Sunday, and I always remember the Wade's coming in late. And sitting up there on the balcony, and I always wanted to sit in the balcony, but no, we had to sit on the second row. So as I got older and I would be invited to sit with the Wades, that was quite a treat. But my first real memory of Dot was I played the piano, and at that time, you didn't have record players and my southern accent's coming up. You didn't have record players, we had pianos in every Sunday school room, and she taught Vacation Bible School, and I played the piano for her. And I hardly knew her, and that's when I really started getting to know the Wade family. And that's a story for another day. When we had the little commencement on Wednesday night, and Walter took over the microphone. I don't know if you remember that, Mary.
You're rich and white.
And watching Dot try to get the microphone back from Walter, a little 5-year-old. So Mary and I became friends. We went on choir tour together. I won't tell some of the, I still think of some of the things we did to those people we stayed with. My gosh, we broke a bed and we toilet paper in a house. These were our good little Baptist girls. Anyway, Mary and I, became really good friends. Amanda was always the one I looked up to because she was a whole 2 years older, I think, than I was. And that was, I will never be as sophisticated as Amanda, even when I'm 70, And then Bill was the little kid that painted me a rock that I still have on my desk. He probably doesn't even remember that. But Dot was one of those wonderful, I cannot think of another mother of a friend that then became my friend. And I think that says a lot about Dot. She was a friend through every part of my life. She was, I wish I could take the time to make a list. I was trying to do some of these in my head. She was a lady before her time. In Kingston, did you see that big rock in her front yard? Now everybody has rocks in their front yard, but at that time, nobody had a rock in their front yard. And Dot wore big jewelry before everybody, now the what do they call those necklaces? She just was always ahead of her time in everything she did. So after I grew up, I moved back onto Kingston. I never lived on Kingston, but I moved as an adult on Kingston. Lived there and was newly married and then proceeded to be divorced after a few years. And I think the guys that lived in her apartments have sort of alluded, she was just always there. I would go to work downtown and I'd ride the bus home. And now I was like, duh, 40 years later, or however many years it's been, Dot was always at her front. She knew when that bus came. And now I'll try to get choked up. She knew how lonely I was and how devastated I was. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, but at the time I was devastated. And she always had lemonade or something and wanted me to come in and talk after days of work, and she knew I was going to the house by myself. And I know that was not happenstance. I know she was there, just like with the cookies on the steps at 2 in the morning. During that time, she also knew that she had a new grandson, her first grandson, Will. And she invited Scobie and I to escort her to Washington, which was a great idea for me. I'd never been to D.C. So I know where I want to get, I'm losing my train of thought, but anyway, we escorted her. I'd never been on a car trip that long that we didn't stop except to go to the bathroom. Because Dot had a basket in the back seat of food. There was this no running through McDonald's or whatever. She had just a beautiful lab in the back seat. And she had drinks, and not alcohol drinks, but drinks. And we just had a grand time driving up there. And every morning she takes Scobie and I to the subway or the metro, and we'd go see the sights. And I could never understand, here I was like maybe 29 years old, I could never understand why in the heck she didn't want to go into DC with us. Now that I have 2 grandsons, I know exactly why she didn't want to go into DC. I mean, we were just a method of her to get to DC so she could be with Will and Bill and Amanda. Kathy, you talked about the eyeliner. I remember I was never the one in the kitchen like Dot was. And we were working one night. Now, Amanda, I've never had a chance to ask this question. Dot, I was trying to help in the kitchen, which was a hoot in itself. And Dot said, Amanda likes her dishwasher loaded a certain way. I sort of did, but I was just throwing things in there. And Dot was showing me how you put them in the back first and then you load towards the front. And I'm just now realized that Amanda was probably, the excuse that Dot really wanted me to load in a certain way.
It was a teaching moment.
It was a teaching moment. So so Kathy, it's funny, you talk about every time you put eyeliner on, every time I load the dishwasher. Which is daily, maybe sometimes twice a day I think of Dot. But she was a dear, I just, she meant a lot to me, and I don't want to get wrong, but I've told her kids I regret that I didn't see her as much as I wanted to, but I realized that I didn't see her because she had taught me well. Because I was at high school with my kid, I had kids sort of late in life. I was at the ice skating rink working. I'm not trying to build myself up, but I was very active and I was following Dot's example. And she just taught me a lot. And I thank you. Here's to Dot.
My name is Kasey Maier. I'm part of the Botanica family. I've only known Dot a couple of years. And first of all, I'd like to ask, how many people in this room have tasted the wonderful food prepared by Dot? Just about everybody, right? But as soon as I joined Botanica, I saw that the food preparation was a big part of the board meeting and the events, and we had a big event in the first fall of 2013. And Amanda and Dot prepared food. Well, first of all, we talked about hiring a caterer. Dot wouldn't have anything to do with it. There was food from that wall to that wall, completely full with beautiful colors. To Dot, food was love. Wouldn't you agree? Food was love. When I first met her in 2013, I had interviewed for the job, first level, interviewed for the second level, then went to the first board meeting, met all the board members, and everything seemed to be fine, and there were people, you can see it, there are people, and I'm talking to people, and then the crowd kind of clears, and there's this little woman. And she looks at me and she says, "Why do you want this job?" Well, to her, the Botanica Gardens were very important. She said, "I've been working on this project for 30 years, why do you want this job?" And I told her, and then I felt strongly about it, and then she said, "Okay, we'll give you a chance." All right. But the most important part of all of that is that I did talk to her and met with her and had lunch with her through the last couple of years, and she would continuously say to me, "I'm proud of you." And my mom is gone, so that was really important to me. She kind of became my mom. And she'd say, "I'm proud of you," every time. "I'm proud of you." And that was really important to me, and that really hit home. I'm a white female, so I can say, someday I want to be Dot, and I want to have a room full of friends just like you. Thanks.
I am the first outlaw. Many families have in-laws. I'm the first outlaw. I had 3 precious gifts from Dr. One of them involves Botanica. Mary and I had bricks on the ground at Botanica, and if you don't have a brick on the ground, see Byron, he would take care of it. Right. The second gift that I got was the most elegant Strelitzia ginger tropical wildflowers that adorned the Presbyterian chapel when Mary and I married here 18 years ago. And the most precious gift that Dot gave me was Mary Wade Ayers, my love for 18 years. So to Dot and to Mary Ayers.
Well, I started this, so I was told I needed to finish it. The bar is closed, unfortunately.
We drank it all.
We drank it all. I'm drinking my last choice of bourbon. But thank you all really for coming. The hospitality, the food thing keeps coming up, and I just had to share one more. We're preparing the house, 4th Street, 2 blocks up, to rent. We have one more floor to rent, and that was her space. And going into that house and not smelling anything cooking, not smelling anything that's been prepared, tears me up. It's really hard. So here's to Dot. Thank you all for coming. Hope to gather again soon, and thank you all.
Thank you.